Hi. I'm not sure if this is quite the right number to call. Last night I got home from the bars with my girlfriend, and she got upset at me and ran off. And I chased her and wasn't able to find her, and I still haven't heard from her. Her phone's off. I called all her family, and they haven't heard from her, so I'm wondering what you recommend I do.
The young man's voice rang out in the 911 call in the early morning hours of July 24th, 2016. No crying, no panic, just suppressed confusion, and a terrible premonition that rose with each beat, like a vague pain squeezing his chest. The girl he was referring to was Kaylee Sawyer, 23 years old, a college student living in Bend, Oregon. Kaylee had a bright smile, light blonde hair, and the confident gaze of a young person on the right track in life. She had a loving boyfriend, a part-time job at a dental clinic, and a stable future after graduating from Central Oregon Community College. That night, Kaylee and her boyfriend had just returned from a small wedding in the city. When they got back to his apartment, right on the Central Oregon Community College campus, they had a slight argument. No tension, just the familiar conflict of young people learning to understand each other. But Kaylee decided to step outside to calm down. She left the apartment and walked alone along the familiar path on campus, where students passed every night without any suspicion. That night there was no rain. The wind was light. Everything seemed normal. But the next morning, Kaylee did not return. Not a single text message, not a single call, not a single sign of her. And the strangest thing, the last place anyone saw Kaylee was on the campus that she passed every day as if she belonged there. Just one step in the night, and everything disappeared. In the middle of a place that seemed absolutely safe. Where did Kaylee go? And who was the last person to see her? At approximately 1 a.m. on July 24, 2016, Kaylee Sawyer left her boyfriend's apartment after a brief argument. She walked down the steep path leading to her dormitory on the Central Oregon Community College, COCC campus, where she both attended and lived. In her cocktail dress, flat shoes, and cell phone in her pocket, Kaylee walked quietly alone in the dark. That was the last time anyone saw her in her normal state. The COCC campus is located on a secluded hill, surrounded by pine trees, and is almost deserted at night. At approximately 1:15 a.m., a patrol car quietly pulled up to the street where Kaylee was walking. The driver was Edwin Anak Lara, 31 years old, a night shift security guard. The car had a school badge, flashing lights, and Lara was wearing a uniform that looked like a police officer's, an image that reassured students without making them wary. Lara stopped next to Kaylee, got out, and approached her. What happened next was only known later from his own testimony. Kaylee had voluntarily gotten into the car, but from that moment on, she disappeared. Her phone was completely silent. The next morning, Lara suddenly disappeared from work. He did not report off, did not return his patrol car, and did not answer any calls from his colleagues. Lara's legal girlfriend later testified that he left the house looking dazed, leaving his work phone behind, something that had never happened before. By the time Kaylee's family began to worry about not being able to contact her, Lara was on the run. Within 24 hours of the fateful encounter, he left Bend, driving south toward Oregon. In a town near Salem, Lara approached a female student, identified herself as a police officer, forced her into his car, and continued driving hundreds of miles into the night. The night of the 24th passed without warning, without official reporting. Nor was there any reasonable explanation for the simultaneous disappearance of a student and a security guard. And while everything was still unclear, Lara, in her patrol car and trusty uniform, was hundreds of miles away from Bend, leaving behind a mystery that no one had yet named. Sunday morning, July 24, 2016. As the sun rose, Cameron Reimhofer woke up with a strange feeling. His girlfriend, Kaylee Sawyer, was still missing. She had left the night before after a brief argument, saying she was going for a walk to calm down. But now more than 8 hours had passed, no text, no call, no sign that she was safe. At around 8 a.m., Cameron called 911 to report her disappearance. The police took the report, but initially thought it was a voluntary departure, a common response to a romantic breakup. But as time went on, the anomalies became clear. Kaylee's phone was completely off, her social media accounts were silent, and no one, not even her family or friends, had heard back. That same day, Cameron and his family began searching the Central Oregon Community College campus, where Kaylee was believed to have last walked. They searched every parking lot, every tree-lined path. There was no trace. Not a single camera had captured a clear image of Kaylee after she left the dorm. It seemed she had vanished into the night. The next day was filled with mounting pressure. Police expanded the search, contacted hospitals, bus stations, and checked traffic cameras. But all came to a dead end. Kaylee's family began to suspect that this was no ordinary missing person case. And then, on the morning of July 26th, a surprising turn occurred in California. A man named Edwin Lara was arrested after kidnapping a woman and forcing her to drive hundreds of miles. While in custody, Lara suddenly asked to speak to Oregon police. He told them he had killed Kaylee Sawyer 2 days earlier and knew exactly where the body was.
I just want to say that it was an accident. So I work for campus public safety there, and she was really drunk, and I didn't see her, and I ran her over.
Okay.
And then after that, I just she was still breathing, and then she was screaming, and I decided to silence her forever. I know this is being recorded, and I just want to say to the family of Kaylee that I am sorry. I'm sorry for what I did to her, and in time I will tell them where the body is. I will just, that way she can rest in peace.
Do you want to let me know, or just have this recorded where it is?
No, I remember.
Okay.
That afternoon, following Lara's lead, police went to a remote area off Highway 126 off Dry Creek Road outside Redmond. Amid sparse woods and dry ground, they found a woman's body, not well buried, nearly 20 miles from the COCC campus. Insider knew right away something was wrong. The way the body had been left, the unfamiliar location, and the uncharacteristic calmness with which Lara spoke all made them wary. But what the body revealed was inconsistent with the story he was telling. On the afternoon of July 26, 2016, shortly after the body was found, the forensic and crime scene investigation team immediately arrived at the area Lara had pointed out, a barren patch of land along Highway 126 near the intersection of Dry Creek Road. No houses, no surveillance cameras, almost no one passing by. It was this remoteness that made this place ideal for hiding a crime. But when the experts began to analyze it, they quickly realized the scene was too clean. No blood, no rocks and dirt were disturbed, no signs of dragging. There were no personal belongings of the victim lying around. The body was placed neatly, not buried or covered, completely contrary to the usual behavior of those who want to hide their crimes. The results of the forensic examination showed Kaylee Sawyer died from blunt force trauma to the head, a type of blunt force trauma. The time of death was determined to be in the early hours of July 24th, which matched the time of her disappearance. There was no sign that Kaylee had been bound, assaulted, or murdered on the spot. One thing that puzzled investigators: the body showed almost no signs of a struggle. No scratches, no skin tissue under the fingernails, no bruising from a struggle. This led to two possibilities. Either Kaylee had been attacked unexpectedly, or she had lost consciousness before being murdered. One of the victim's shoes was found a few meters away. It was unclear when it had fallen off, but it was that small detail, combined with the bare bones of the crime scene, that raised the crucial question. Was this really where Kaylee died? Or was it just where Lara chose to leave her? Soon after Kaylee Sawyer's body was identified, Bend police went into high gear. Even though Edwin Lara had turned himself in to California, a confession, no matter how clear, was not enough in a first-degree murder case. They needed evidence, and every detail had to match. The investigation began not with a confession, but on the morning of July 24th, when Cameron Reimhofer reported Kaylee missing. Initially, police treated the case as a case of voluntary departure, but after hours of combing the COCC campus without finding any trace, that initial assumption began to falter. The police requested access to all security cameras on campus, nearby traffic data, and access information from the internal system. Edwin Lara was quickly identified on the night shift roster for July 23rd, not only because he was the only employee on duty, but because Lara had disappeared from work, without reason, without reporting. The patrol car had also disappeared from the parking lot. All signs pointed to Lara being in hiding, or hiding something. The investigation team immediately turned to technical tracking. Data from the patrol car's GPS system showed that the car left campus at 1:20 a.m. on July 24th, just 20 minutes after Kaylee was believed to have left the dorm. The car's route led to several wooded areas near Redmond, which is where her body was later found. When Lara was arrested in Wairika on the morning of July 26th, Bend police quickly joined in on the remote interview. Lara's testimony was detailed and straightforward, but because of that, the investigators were even more cautious. Was he telling the truth, or was he just building up a version that was most favorable to him? To verify, they compared every detail. An independent forensic team was sent to examine the patrol car. On the carpet, they found traces of blood, matching Kaylee's DNA. The blood was near the trunk area, exactly as Lara described how he attacked her in the car. This became the key link, connecting the testimony with the physical evidence. At the same time, the police contacted the victims who had been kidnapped by Lara during her escape. They said that Lara had once exclaimed, "That girl was the first. I killed someone in Oregon." One woman remembered clearly. Lara didn't seem afraid of being caught, just afraid of being misunderstood. That detail gave investigators a better understanding of the nature of Lara's nature. He didn't just confess, he wanted to control how his crimes were told. As the evidence mounted, another question arose. How could Lara, a man with no criminal record, have committed the crime so easily? An internal investigation at COCC revealed that Lara had been reported for inappropriate behavior towards students. But the school took no action. He was not disciplined. He was not restricted from using a car. He was still assigned to work alone at night. COCC, which is considered a safe environment, did not have any clear internal monitoring policies for security guards. Kaylee's family, through their attorney, requested access to all personnel records related to Lara. They believed the warning signs were there all along, but were ignored. If they had listened sooner, she wouldn't have had to meet him that night, Kaylee's mother said. If they had listened sooner, she wouldn't have had to meet him that night. After compiling all the data, GPS, DNA, witness statements, security video, and the confession itself, Bend police, working with the federal government in the state of California, completed their case in just a few days. It was a surprisingly fast process. There was little room for doubt. And when the facts were finally laid out, it became clear. Lara didn't need a sophisticated plan. She just needed power and a system that no one was watching. After being extradited back to Oregon, Edwin Lara was formally charged with first-degree murder in late 2016. The case immediately drew intense media attention across the state, not only because of its severity, but because of the shocking fact that the man in uniform, assigned to protect the students, had taken the life of one of them. In January 2018, Lara appeared in Deschutes County Court in Bend. In what was widely seen as a move to avoid the death penalty, he pleaded guilty to the murder of Kaylee Sawyer. The plea shortened the proceedings and spared the victim's family from having to relive the most painful details of the crime. The judge handed down the sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole, the maximum sentence under Oregon law. The courtroom was silent at the sentencing. Lara kept his head down the entire time, never looking up. Behind him, Kaylee's family sat silently, eyes red, hands clasped. When asked to speak, Kaylee's mother, Jamie Sawyer, choked up and said, "We lost a child, but we will not lose the meaning of her life." She declared, "The pain will not end in silence. It will become the driving force to change the system, so that no other child will be victimized by those who wear the cloak of evil but lack morals. However, the verdict was not the end of the story. The federal justice system continued to prosecute Lara for a series of serious crimes during her escape: kidnapping students in Salem, shooting people while hijacking cars in California, and holding 2 hostages during a journey of more than 300 miles. All of this is documented in federal records with full testimony and witnesses. In April 2018, a federal judge in Oregon sentenced Lara to a second life sentence, this time under federal law, also without the possibility of parole. The 2 sentences in 2 different courts closed all doors back to society for Edwin Lara. But when he walked out of the courtroom, the public was still outraged. How could someone like Lara be given a uniform, a patrol car, and access to students without any real oversight? The question exposed a deep flaw in the school security system, a flaw that cost the life of a 23-year-old girl. The trial ended, but from there another door opened, not for Lara, but for the survivors, the door to changing state law. And it started with a name: Kaylee. The Kaylee Sawyer case not only ended with 2 life sentences, but also ushered in a new era in Oregon's legal system. After the trial, the Sawyer family did not choose to stay silent. They began a campaign for policy with a single goal: to prevent such a tragedy from happening to anyone else. In 2019, after nearly 3 years of perseverance, Kaylee's Law was officially passed. The law places strict regulations on school security forces, people who are not police officers but are often given the same power and image. Accordingly, patrol cars are no longer allowed to have roof lights, bumpers, or the appearance of police vehicles. Security uniforms must be clearly distinguishable. All patrol cars must be equipped with GPS, dash cams, and audio recording to ensure that every action can be monitored. The Sawyer family knew they could not bring Kaylee back, but they can protect other students, other children, from those who wear uniforms but lack morals. We always teach our children to trust people in uniforms. But what if the uniforms themselves make it easier for the bad guys to do their jobs? And finally, a question that makes everyone shudder. If Lara hadn't gone on the rampage, who would know what really happened to Kaylee that night?